The stars had always been silent until the day they started screaming. Admiral Krekstar stood before the massive viewing screen in his command chamber, watching the green and blue planet called Earth spin slowly in space. He had never seen this world with his own eyes, but his ships had been listening to its radio signals for 3 months now. What he heard made his blood run cold. The humans were monsters. Every transmission from their planet told the same story. They made entertainment about destroying worlds. Their news spoke of wars that killed millions. Their history lessons described centuries of violence and conquest. Even their children's stories were filled with battles between good and evil, with weapons and death. "Show me the transmission again," Krekstar commanded. His communication officer, a young Zephyrian named Tex Moore, activated the recording. The viewing screen filled with images from something the humans called a movie. Explosions filled the screen as humans in metal suits destroyed entire cities. The soundtrack was loud and violent, with humans cheering as they won their fictional battles. "This is what they do for fun," Tex Moore said quietly. "They watch violence and call it entertainment." Krekstar's 4 arms crossed over his chest. In his 300 years of life, he had seen many species. Some were peaceful traders. Others were warriors like his own people. But none had ever seemed so dangerous as these humans. They appeared to love violence more than the Zephyrians did, and that was saying something. "What about their government signals?" Krekstar asked. Another officer, War Commander Velnoth, stepped forward. His purple skin was marked with the scars of many battles. "Their leaders speak constantly of military strength. They have weapons that could destroy their own planet many times over. They call these weapons nuclear arms and they point them at each other." Krekstar felt a chill run down his spine. His own people had powerful weapons, but they had never built anything that could destroy their home world. The idea seemed insane. "There's more," Velnoth continued. "They fight wars over pieces of land. They fight over resources. They even fight over ideas. In their recorded history, they have never had a single year without a war happening somewhere on their planet." The admiral walked to his command chair and sat down heavily. The Zephyrian Empire had conquered 17 worlds in the past 1,000 years. Each time, they had given the target species a chance to surrender peacefully. Most had been smart enough to accept. The few that fought back had been defeated quickly and cleanly. But humans seemed different. They seemed to enjoy fighting. They seemed to prepare for war constantly. If the Zephyrians tried to offer them surrender, the humans would probably laugh and attack instead. "Sir," Tex Moore said carefully, "perhaps we should try to communicate with them first." "Standard protocol requires." "Standard protocol," Krekstar interrupted, "is for normal species. These humans are not normal. Look at their transmissions again." The screen changed to show a human news broadcast. The human reporter was talking about something called a war movie marathon, while images of explosions and battles played behind her. She was smiling as she spoke about the violence. "They celebrate war," Krekstar said. "They make festivals about it. They teach their children to play with toy weapons. This is not a species that will listen to reason." Velnoth nodded slowly. "Intelligence suggests they have been preparing for war with other species for decades. They have organizations dedicated to planning for what they call alien invasion. They assume any contact with other worlds will be hostile. Because that's how they think," Krekstar said. "Violence is their first response to everything. If we try to negotiate with them, they will see it as weakness and attack. If we try to trade with them, they will try to steal our technology and use it against us. If we leave them alone, they will eventually develop space travel and come looking for us." The admiral stood up and walked to the communications panel. His fingers moved over the controls, opening a channel to the Zephyrian High Council on their home world of Zephyr Prime. "High Council," he said formally, "I request an emergency session to discuss the human threat." The response came back within minutes. All 12 members of the High Council appeared on the viewing screen, their purple faces serious and concerned. High Counselor Nexera spoke first. "Admiral Krekstar, what have you learned about this species?" The response came back within minutes. All 12 members of the High Council appeared on the viewing screen, their purple faces serious and concerned. High Counselor Nexera spoke first. Admiral Krekstar, what have you learned about this species? They are the most dangerous enemy we have ever encountered, Krekstar replied. Not because of their technology, which is primitive, but because of their nature. They live for war. They breathe violence. They will never stop fighting until they have conquered everything, including us. He transmitted the human entertainment and news broadcasts to the council. For the next hour, the 12 most powerful beings in the Zephyrian Empire watched human movies, listened to human music about war, and reviewed human military broadcasts. When the transmission ended, the council chamber was silent for a long time. This is disturbing, High Counselor Nexera said finally. But are we certain these transmissions represent their true nature? We have monitored over 10,000 hours of their communications, Krekstar replied. The pattern is consistent across all their cultures and languages. War, violence, and conquest are central to their civilization. Another counselor, Zektor, leaned forward. What do you recommend? Krekstar took a deep breath. We must act first. If we wait for them to develop faster than light travel, they will bring their war to every world in the galaxy. We must stop them now, while they are still trapped in their own solar system. You're talking about preemptive war, High Counselor Nexera said slowly. I'm talking about survival, Krekstar replied. Ours and everyone else's. The council voted. It was unanimous. War Commander Velnoth began preparing the largest battle fleet in Zephyrian history. 847 warships would make the journey to Earth. The humans would be given one chance to surrender. If they refused, their planet would be conquered and their species scattered across the galaxy as prisoners. It would take 18 months to reach the Sol system at maximum hyperspace speed. That would give the humans time to think about their choices, assuming they detected the fleet coming. As the massive ships prepared to leave Zephyr Prime, Admiral Krekstar watched the final preparations from his command deck. He felt no joy in what was about to happen. The Zephyrians had always preferred peaceful conquest when possible. But some species, it seemed, only understood violence. The humans had proven that through their own transmissions. Now they would learn what real war looked like when it came from the stars. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying death toward a small blue planet that had no idea what was coming. The response came back within minutes. All 12 members of the High Council appeared on the viewing screen, their purple faces serious and concerned. High Counselor Nexera spoke first. Admiral Krekstar, what have you learned about this species? They are the most dangerous enemy we have ever encountered, Krekstar replied. Not because of their technology, which is primitive, but because of their nature. They live for war. They breathe violence. They will never stop fighting until they have conquered everything, including us. He transmitted the human entertainment and news broadcasts to the council. For the next hour, the 12 most powerful beings in the Zephyrian Empire watched human movies, listened to human music about war, and reviewed human military broadcasts. When the transmission ended, the council chamber was silent for a long time. This is disturbing, High Counselor Nexera said finally. But are we certain these transmissions represent their true nature? We have monitored over 10,000 hours of their communications, Krekstar replied. The pattern is consistent across all their cultures and languages. War, violence, and conquest are central to their civilization. Another counselor, Zektor, leaned forward. What do you recommend? Krekstar took a deep breath. We must act first. If we wait for them to develop faster than light travel, they will bring their war to every world in the galaxy. We must stop them now, while they are still trapped in their own solar system. You're talking about preemptive war, High Counselor Nexera said slowly. I'm talking about survival, Krekstar replied. Ours and everyone else's. The council voted. It was unanimous. War Commander Velnoth began preparing the largest battle fleet in Zephyrian history. 847 warships would make the journey to Earth. The humans would be given one chance to surrender. If they refused, their planet would be conquered and their species scattered across the galaxy as prisoners. It would take 18 months to reach the Sol system at maximum hyperspace speed. That would give the humans time to think about their choices, assuming they detected the fleet coming. As the massive ships prepared to leave Zephyr Prime, Admiral Krekstar watched the final preparations from his command deck. He felt no joy in what was about to happen. The Zephyrians had always preferred peaceful conquest when possible. But some species, it seemed, only understood violence. The humans had proven that through their own transmissions. Now they would learn what real war looked like when it came from the stars. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, carrying death toward a small blue planet that had no idea what was coming. Jake Morrison had been working the night shift at the Arecibo Deep Space Monitoring Station for 3 years, and he had never seen anything like it. The computer screens showed strange patterns in space, like ripples in water but moving faster than light. Jake rubbed his tired eyes and looked again. The patterns were still there, growing stronger by the hour. "Hey, Dr. Cameron," he called across the room. "You need to see this." Dr. Lisa Cameron walked over to Jake's station, carrying her third cup of coffee of the night. She was the head of NASA's xenobiology department, which meant she studied the possibility of alien life. Until tonight, it had been all theory and hope. "What am I looking at?" she asked, settling into the chair next to Jake. "Hyperspace signatures," Jake said. "At least, that's what the computer thinks they are. The patterns match some of the theoretical models we've been working with." Lisa felt her heart start beating faster. "How many sources?" Jake checked his instruments. 847 distinct signatures, all moving in formation toward our solar system. For a moment, neither of them spoke. They both understood what this meant. "How long until they get here?" Lisa asked quietly. "If they maintain current speed and don't change course, 18 months. Lisa grabbed the emergency phone and dialed the direct line to NASA headquarters. Within an hour, she was on a video call with the President of the United States. President Patricia Wells listened to the report without interrupting. When Lisa finished explaining the situation, the President was quiet for a long time. "Dr. Cameron," she said finally, "are you absolutely certain these are alien ships?" "The probability is over 90%, Madam President. The hyperspace patterns are too organized and directed to be natural phenomena." "And they're headed directly for Earth?" "Yes, ma'am. Their course will bring them into our solar system in approximately 18 months. President Wells closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "I need to make some calls. Dr. Cameron, I want you to keep monitoring those signals. If anything changes, I want to know immediately." Within 6 hours, every major world leader had been briefed on the situation. The United Nations held an emergency session. Military commanders from every nation met in secure video conferences. General Marcus Thompson was appointed to head the newly formed Earth Defense Command. He was a career military officer who had served in conflicts around the world, but nothing had prepared him for this. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said to the assembled officers from 50 nations, "we have 18 months to prepare for humanity's first interstellar war." The response was unlike anything in human history. Countries that had been enemies for decades suddenly became allies. Military secrets were shared freely. Scientists who had been working on competing projects joined forces. Dr. Cameron found herself leading a team of the world's best minds, all focused on learning everything possible about the approaching aliens. They had very little to work with, just the hyperspace signatures and some faint energy readings. "What can we determine about their technology?" General Thompson asked during one of their daily briefings. Dr. Cameron pulled up charts on the main screen. "Their ships are large, much larger than anything we could build. The energy reading suggests they use some kind of fusion or antimatter propulsion. They're definitely more advanced than us in terms of space travel." "What about weapons?" asked Colonel Sarah Bennett, Thompson's intelligence officer. "Unknown," Lisa admitted. "But we have to assume they're coming here for a reason, and it's probably not tourism." Meanwhile, Captain Alex Rodriguez was preparing for humanity's most dangerous mission. He would pilot the experimental spacecraft Ranger 1 on a reconnaissance flight to get closer to the alien fleet. "This is completely insane," Rodriguez told his wife Elena the night before launch. "I'm going to fly toward a fleet of alien warships and try to get close enough to scan them without being detected." Elena Rodriguez was a fighter pilot herself, so she understood the risks better than most. "Just come back," she said simply. "The world needs to know what we're facing." The Ranger 1 launched from a secret facility in Nevada 3 months after the alien fleet was first detected. Rodriguez's mission was simple in theory: get close enough to the aliens to learn about their technology and capabilities, then return to Earth with the information. While Rodriguez was flying toward almost certain death, engineer Sophie Blake was working 18-hour days to prepare Earth's defenses. She led teams that were converting civilian satellites into weapons platforms and turning space stations into fortresses. "We can't match their technology," she explained to General Thompson, "but we don't have to. We just need to make attacking Earth cost more than they're willing to pay." The most important work was being done by teams of programmers and computer scientists. If the aliens used any kind of computer systems, humanity's best weapon might be cyber warfare. Danny West, a civilian programmer who had volunteered for the defense effort, was working on something he called the Welcome virus. It was designed to infiltrate alien computer systems and cause as much chaos as possible. "The beauty of this approach," Danny explained to his team, "is that they won't expect it. Most species probably fight with weapons and shields. How many of them think to attack through software?" But perhaps the most surprising member of the defense team was Dr. Amy Foster, a marine biologist who had been studying ocean life when the aliens were detected. "I know this sounds crazy," she told Dr. Cameron during one meeting, "but I think I might have found a weapon." Amy had been analyzing the trace elements left behind by the alien ship's engines. By studying the chemical signatures, she had made educated guesses about alien biology. "If I'm right about their biochemistry," Amy explained, "they might be extremely vulnerable to certain Earth bacteria. Things that are completely harmless to us could be deadly to them." Dr. Cameron leaned forward. "Are you talking about biological warfare?" "I'm talking about using our planet's natural advantages," Amy replied. "Earth has millions of microorganisms that have evolved here over billions of years. Any alien species landing on our world would be exposed to bacteria they've never encountered before." As the months passed, humanity's preparations grew more sophisticated. Radio telescopes around the world were modified to work as early warning systems. The International Space Station was evacuated and converted into a weapons platform. Most importantly, humanity was learning to work together in ways they never had before. The threat from space had done what centuries of diplomacy could not: it had united the human race. General Thompson stood in the main command center, watching displays that showed defensive preparations around the globe. Laser installations in orbit, missile batteries on every continent, and thousands of aircraft ready for battle. "We're as ready as we're going to be," he told President Wells during their final briefing before Rodriguez's return from his reconnaissance mission. "Do you think we can win?" the president asked. Thompson was quiet for a moment. "I think we can make them regret coming here," he said finally. "And sometimes, that's enough." Outside the command center windows, the night sky looked peaceful and empty. But somewhere in that darkness, 800 alien warships were racing toward Earth at impossible speeds. Humanity had 18 months to prepare for war. The question was whether that would be enough time to save their world. War Commander Velnoth stood on the bridge of the flagship Wrath of Krekstar, watching stars streak past at impossible speeds. Behind him, 846 other Zephyrian warships followed in perfect formation through hyperspace. The journey to Earth would take 18 months, and they had been traveling for 6 of those months already. Every day brought them closer to what would be the largest military operation in Zephyrian history. "Status report," Velnoth commanded. His second-in-command, Battle Captain Korseth, stepped forward. "All ships maintaining formation. Engine efficiency at maximum. No technical problems reported." Velnoth nodded. The Zephyrian military machine was efficient and reliable. In 1,000 years of expansion, they had never lost a major battle. Their success came from superior organization, overwhelming force, and absolute discipline. "What about crew morale?" Velnoth asked. "Hi, sir." The soldiers are eager to face these humans. That was exactly what Velnoth expected to hear. Zephyrian warriors lived for battle. They had been trained from childhood to follow orders without question and to see conquest as the highest honor. But lately, something had been bothering him. The intelligence reports about humans didn't match anything in Zephyrian military history. Every species they had conquered before had been either peaceful traders or standard military opponents. The humans seemed to be something else entirely. In his private quarters, Velnoth reviewed the human transmissions for the 100th time. The entertainment broadcasts showed humans fighting with incredible determination, often choosing death over surrender. Their news reports described wars that lasted for years, with neither side willing to give up. "These humans don't fight like normal species," he muttered to himself. Most conquered peoples surrendered when they realized resistance was hopeless. A few fought bravely for a while before accepting defeat. But humans seemed to prefer fighting to the death over living under foreign rule. Deep in the ship's intelligence section, Junior Officer Zarlin was having similar thoughts. She had been assigned to study human communications and create battle plans based on human psychology. The more she learned, the more worried she became. "Officer Krelmon," she called to her colleague at the next workstation. "Have you reviewed the human historical files?" Krelmon looked up from his analysis computer. "Yes. Disturbing stuff. They've been at war constantly for their entire recorded history." "That's not what bothers me," Zarlin said. "It's how they fight. Look at this." She brought up files about human conflicts from their past. When their cities are surrounded and defeat is certain, they keep fighting. When their armies are outnumbered 10 to 1, they keep fighting. When their leaders are captured and their governments destroyed, they keep fighting. Krelmon studied the data. "So they're stubborn. We've seen that before." "No, this is different. They don't fight because they think they can win. They fight because they refuse to give up. Even when they know they're going to die, they try to take as many enemies with them as possible." Zarlin pulled up more files. "Look at this battle called the Alamo. 200 humans were surrounded by thousands of enemies. They knew they couldn't win. They knew help wasn't coming. They fought anyway and died to the last soldier." "That's just stupid," Krelmon said. "Maybe. But look at this, the Battle of Britain. Their island was being bombed every day. Their enemies had more planes, more bombs, more everything. The humans should have surrendered. Instead, they fought in the air until they won." Zarlin brought up more examples. Humans who fought overwhelming odds in places called Thermopylae, Stalingrad, and Iwo Jima. Sometimes they won through sheer determination. Sometimes they lost but inflicted terrible damage on their enemies. "What are you getting at?" Krelmon asked. "I think we're making a mistake," Zarlin said quietly. "We're planning to conquer these humans the same way we conquered everyone else. But they're not like everyone else." 3 months into the journey, the fleet started experiencing technical problems. Nothing serious at first, just minor glitches in the navigation systems. Ships would drift slightly out of formation before correcting their course. "It's probably interference from the human solar system," Battle Captain Korseth reported to Velnoth. "Their star puts out a lot of electromagnetic radiation." But the problems got worse as they got closer to Earth. Communication systems would cut out for seconds at a time. Targeting computers would lose lock on their practice targets. Even the food processors started producing meals that tasted wrong. "This is unacceptable," Velnoth said during a staff meeting. "We cannot arrive at Earth with our systems malfunctioning." "Engineering reports that the interference is definitely coming from the human system," Korseth replied. "But they don't understand why it's affecting us so severely." Zarlin had a theory, but she wasn't sure she should share it. The patterns of interference looked too organized to be natural. They seemed almost like someone was deliberately trying to disrupt Zephyrian technology. "Could the humans be doing this on purpose?" she asked during the meeting. The other officers laughed. "Impossible," said Battle Captain Korseth. "They don't even know we're coming. And their technology is too primitive to affect our ships from this distance. But Zarlin wasn't convinced. She had been studying human science broadcasts, and she knew they were more clever than the military reports suggested. They might not have faster-than-light travel, but they understood electromagnetic radiation better than most species. As the months passed, the interference grew stronger. More importantly, it was affecting the crew's morale. Zephyrian soldiers were used to perfect equipment and flawless communications. When their technology started failing, they began to doubt their commanders. "Sir," Zarlin said to Velnoth during a private meeting, "I request permission to attempt communication with the humans." Velnoth stared at her in surprise. "Communication? Why?" "To learn more about their capabilities. If they are causing the interference, we need to understand how. If they're not, we need to find out what is." "Absolutely not," Velnoth replied. Admiral Krekstar's orders were clear. "No contact until we arrive at Earth." Zarlin nodded and left the commander's office. But she couldn't stop thinking about the human transmissions she had been studying. Mixed in with their violent entertainment and military broadcasts were other things. Music that was beautiful rather than aggressive. Art that showed love instead of war. Stories about cooperation and sacrifice for others. Maybe the military reports were wrong about human nature. Maybe there was more to these creatures than violence and conquest. Late at night, when the rest of the intelligence section was asleep, Zarlin began composing a message. It was against orders, against regulations, and against everything she had been taught about proper military conduct. But as the Zephyrian fleet continued its journey toward Earth, growing closer every day to what might be the most destructive war in galactic history, someone needed to try talking instead of fighting. The question was whether anyone on Earth would be listening when she finally found the courage to send her message. Behind them, 846 other warships followed in formation, carrying weapons that could destroy a planet. Ahead of them, a small blue world waited, unaware that its first contact with alien life would come in the form of an invasion fleet. But in the intelligence section of the flagship, one young Zephyrian officer was beginning to wonder if there might be another way to end this conflict before it destroyed two entire civilizations. 3 months into the journey, the fleet started experiencing technical problems. Nothing serious at first, just minor glitches in the navigation systems. Ships would drift slightly out of formation before correcting their course. "It's probably interference from the human solar system," Battle Captain Korseth reported to Velnoth. "Their star puts out a lot of electromagnetic radiation." But the problems got worse as they got closer to Earth. Communication systems would cut out for seconds at a time. Targeting computers would lose lock on their practice targets. Even the food processors started producing meals that tasted wrong. "This is unacceptable," Velnoth said during a staff meeting. "We cannot arrive at Earth with our systems malfunctioning." "Engineering reports that the interference is definitely coming from the human system," Korseth replied. "But they don't understand why it's affecting us so severely." Zarlin had a theory, but she wasn't sure she should share it. The patterns of interference looked too organized to be natural. They seemed almost like someone was deliberately trying to disrupt Zephyrian technology. "Could the humans be doing this on purpose?" she asked during the meeting. The other officers laughed. "Impossible," said Battle Captain Korseth. "They don't even know we're coming. And their technology is too primitive to affect our ships from this distance." But Zarlin wasn't convinced. She had been studying human science broadcasts, and she knew they were more clever than the military reports suggested. They might not have faster-than-light travel, but they understood electromagnetic radiation better than most species. As the months passed, the interference grew stronger. More importantly, it was affecting the crew's morale. Zephyrian soldiers were used to perfect equipment and flawless communications. When their technology started failing, they began to doubt their commanders. "Sir," Zarlin said to Velnoth during a private meeting, "I request permission to attempt communication with the humans." Velnoth stared at her in surprise. "Communication? Why?" "To learn more about their capabilities. If they are causing the interference, we need to understand how. If they're not, we need to find out what is." "Absolutely not," Velnoth replied. Admiral Krekstar's orders were clear. No contact until we arrive at Earth. Zarlin nodded and left the commander's office. But she couldn't stop thinking about the human transmissions she had been studying. Mixed in with their violent entertainment and military broadcasts were other things. Music that was beautiful rather than aggressive. Art that showed love instead of war. Stories about cooperation and sacrifice for others. Maybe the military reports were wrong about human nature. Maybe there was more to these creatures than violence and conquest. Late at night, when the rest of the intelligence section was asleep, Zarlin began composing a message. It was against orders, against regulations, and against everything she had been taught about proper military conduct. But as the Zephyrian fleet continued its journey toward Earth, growing closer every day to what might be the most destructive war in galactic history, someone needed to try talking instead of fighting. The question was whether anyone on Earth would be listening when she finally found the courage to send her message. Behind them, 846 other warships followed in formation, carrying weapons that could destroy a planet. Ahead of them, a small blue world waited, unaware that its first contact with alien life would come in the form of an invasion fleet. But in the intelligence section of the flagship, one young Zephyrian officer was beginning to wonder if there might be another way to end this conflict before it destroyed two entire civilizations. Dr. Lisa Cameron hadn't slept more than 4 hours a night in 3 months, and she was starting to see alien technology in her dreams. The breakthrough came at 3:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, when her computer finished analyzing the latest hyperspace signatures from the approaching fleet. The patterns were more complex than anything humans had ever detected, but they followed rules that Lisa was finally beginning to understand. "Sophie, get down here," she called to engineer Sophie Blake, who was working 2 floors above in the weapons development lab. Sophie arrived 5 minutes later, carrying a cup of coffee that had gone cold hours ago. "What did you find?" Lisa pointed to the displays showing wave patterns and energy signatures. "I know how their ships work. At least partly. Look at this." The screen showed a 3-dimensional model of what appeared to be an alien spacecraft. It was much larger than anything humans could build, but its design was strangely simple. "They use centralized control systems," Lisa explained. "Everything on their ships is connected to a main computer. Navigation, weapons, life support, communications, it all runs through one central brain." Sophie studied the display. "That's incredibly efficient, but also incredibly vulnerable. If you could hack the central computer, you could disable the entire ship," Lisa finished. "That's not even the best part. Look at their power distribution." The model changed to show energy flowing through the alien vessel. Instead of the redundant systems humans would use, the aliens had single pathways for power and data. "They've been so successful for so long that they've never had to design for survival," Lisa said. "Their ships are built for overwhelming their enemies, not for defending against sophisticated attacks." Sophie was already thinking like an engineer. "What about that electromagnetic interference we've been causing? Is it affecting them?" "More than we hoped. Their communication systems are designed for clean space environments. Earth's radio transmissions are causing constant static in their internal networks." This was the news that General Thompson had been waiting for. When Lisa and Sophie presented their findings to the Earth Defense Command, the entire strategy changed overnight. "You're telling me," General Thompson said slowly, "that we can potentially disable their ships without firing a shot?" "Not disable," Lisa corrected. "Disrupt. We can make their systems unreliable and their communications fuzzy. In a battle, that might be enough." The Earth Defense Command immediately authorized 3 new projects. The first was led by programmer Danny West, who had been working on computer viruses designed for alien systems. "If their central computers are as integrated as Dr. Cameron thinks," Danny told his team, "then one good virus could spread through an entire ship in minutes." Danny's virus was elegantly simple. Instead of trying to destroy the alien computers, it would just make them unreliable. Navigation systems would drift slightly off course. Weapons would aim a few degrees to the left or right. Life support would fluctuate just enough to be uncomfortable. "The goal isn't to kill them," Danny explained. "It's to make them so frustrated and confused that they can't fight effectively. The second project was led by Dr. Amy Foster, the marine biologist who had discovered that aliens might be vulnerable to Earth bacteria. Amy had been working with samples of the trace elements left by alien engines. By analyzing their chemical composition, she had made educated guesses about alien biology and physiology. If I'm right, she told Dr. Cameron, their immune systems have never encountered anything like Earth's microorganisms. We might not need to shoot them, we might just need to shake hands with them. Amy wasn't planning biological warfare in the traditional sense. Instead, she was developing what she called environmental advantages. If aliens landed on Earth, they would be exposed to millions of microorganisms that their bodies had never learned to fight. It's not about creating a weapon, Amy explained to the ethics committee that reviewed her work. It's about using our natural environment as a defense. Any alien species landing on an unknown planet would face the same risks. The third project was led by Captain Alex Rodriguez, who had just returned from his reconnaissance mission to observe the alien fleet. Rodriguez had managed to get close enough to scan several alien ships without being detected. His report changed everything the Earth Defense Command thought they knew about their enemies. They're not just militarily advanced, Rodriguez told the assembled commanders. They're militarily complacent. Their ships have powerful weapons and strong shields, but they're designed to fight enemies who use similar technology. Rodriguez's scans had revealed that alien tactics hadn't changed in centuries. They approached battles the same way every time, overwhelming force applied in predictable patterns. They've never fought an enemy that used unconventional warfare, Rodriguez continued. Everything about their formation and strategy assumes their opponents will behave like they do. This intelligence led to Earth's most ambitious defense project, turning unconventional thinking into a military advantage. Dr. Cameron found herself leading a team that included military strategists, computer programmers, biologists, and even artists and musicians. Their job was to think of ways to fight that aliens would never expect. What if we don't try to destroy their ships, suggested Maria Santos, a communications specialist. What if we try to talk to them instead? Talk to them? General Thompson asked. Not negotiate, Maria clarified. Confuse them. Overwhelm them with information they don't know how to process. Alien military minds probably think in terms of attack and defense. What if we respond with something completely different? The team developed what they called cognitive warfare. Instead of trying to match alien firepower, they would attack alien expectations. Engineer Sophie Blake had been working on the practical side of Earth's defenses. The planet now bristled with weapons platforms, early warning systems, and communication networks. We can't build ships that match theirs, she reported to General Thompson, but we've turned our entire solar system into a weapon. The asteroid belt had been converted into an early warning network. Automated sensors hidden among the rocks would detect the alien fleet as soon as it dropped out of hyperspace. More importantly, Sophie continued, we've weaponized our own communications network. Every satellite, every radio station, every cell phone tower can now broadcast targeted interference directly at alien ships. The most impressive achievement was the coordination between nations. Countries that had been enemies for decades were now sharing their most secret technologies. The Russians gave us their latest electronic warfare systems, reported Colonel Bennett. The Chinese shared their quantum communication networks. Even North Korea opened their military databases. Danny West's computer virus had evolved into something far more sophisticated than anyone had originally planned. Working with programmers from around the world, he had created a self-adapting system that could learn alien computer languages in real time. The virus doesn't just attack their systems, Danny explained. It learns how their systems work and adapts its attacks accordingly. The longer they're exposed to it, the more effective it becomes. Dr. Amy Foster had made an even more surprising discovery. While studying alien biochemistry, she had realized that humans might have natural advantages beyond just bacterial resistance. Earth's gravity is slightly higher than most inhabited worlds, she told Dr. Cameron. Our atmosphere has a higher oxygen content. Our planet experiences more radiation from space. Humans have evolved to be tougher than most species realize. As the alien fleet grew closer, Earth's preparations became more sophisticated. But the most important change was in how humans thought about the coming conflict. "We're not trying to win a traditional war," General Thompson told President Wells during their final strategy briefing. "We're trying to convince them that Earth is more trouble than it's worth." Dr. Cameron looked up at the night sky, knowing that somewhere in that darkness, hundreds of alien warships were racing toward her planet. In 6 months, humanity would face its first interstellar war. But they wouldn't face it as the primitive species the aliens expected. They would face it as something the galaxy had never seen before, a civilization that refused to fight by anyone else's rules. Zarlin stared at the message she had written and rewritten 17 times. Her hands shook as she held the transmission device that could either save 2 civilizations or end her life. For 8 months, she had been studying human communications while the Zephyrian fleet traveled toward Earth. What she had learned made her question everything she had been taught about warfare and conquest. The humans were violent, yes. Their entertainment showed endless battles and their history was filled with conflicts. But hidden among the military broadcasts and action movies were other transmissions that told a different story. She had found recordings of human music that spoke of love instead of war. She had discovered human art that showed cooperation between different peoples. Most importantly, she had intercepted human communications that revealed something the Zephyrian military had missed: humans were capable of change. The interference affecting the fleet was definitely coming from Earth, but it wasn't random electromagnetic radiation. Someone on the human planet was deliberately targeting Zephyrian ships with specific frequencies designed to disrupt their systems. That meant the humans knew the fleet was coming. It also meant they understood Zephyrian technology well enough to interfere with it. The intelligence reports calling humans primitive were completely wrong. Officer Zarlin called Battle Captain Corseth from across the intelligence section. "Report to War Commander Velnoth immediately." Zarlin quickly hit her message device and hurried to the commander's office. When she arrived, she found Velnoth studying tactical displays with 3 senior officers. "Zarlin," Velnoth said without looking up, "I need your assessment of human military capabilities based on their recent communications." This was her chance. "Sir, I believe our intelligence estimates are incorrect." Velnoth finally looked at her. "Explain." "The humans know we're coming. The electromagnetic interference isn't natural, they're doing it on purpose. More importantly, they've been preparing for our arrival." She activated her personal display and showed the officers her analysis. Human radio traffic has increased by 300% in the past 6 months. They're coordinating global military preparations. They've also been broadcasting on frequencies specifically chosen to disrupt our navigation systems. "How is that possible?" asked one of the senior officers. "They don't have faster-than-light travel. How could they know about our technology?" "I don't know, sir. But the evidence is clear. They detected our fleet somehow and they've been analyzing our engine signatures to determine our weaknesses." Velnoth studied the data carefully. "What do you recommend?" Zarlin took a deep breath. This was the moment that would either save her career or end it. "I recommend we attempt communication before we enter their solar system." The room went silent. One of the senior officers, Battle Captain Thex Moore, stepped forward angrily. "Communication? With primitives who have declared themselves our enemies?" "Sir," Zarlin replied carefully, "our intelligence may be flawed. If the humans are capable of detecting and analyzing our fleet, they might also be capable of negotiation." "Impossible," Thex Moore said. Admiral Krekstar's analysis of their transmissions was thorough. "These humans live for war and violence. With respect, sir, I've been studying their communications for 8 months. There are patterns in their broadcasts that suggest they're more complex than our initial assessment indicated." Velnoth was quiet for a long time. Finally, he spoke. "What kind of patterns?" Zarlin activated another display. "They have global organizations dedicated to preventing wars. They have agreements between nations to limit weapons development. They spend enormous resources on what they call humanitarian aid, helping other humans who are suffering." "Propaganda," Thex Moore said dismissively. "Perhaps, sir. But if it's propaganda, it's very sophisticated. They broadcast these messages to their own people, not to potential enemies. Why would they lie to themselves? Velnoth studied the information for several minutes. Even if you're correct, Admiral Krekstar's orders were explicit. No communication until after we demonstrate our military superiority. Sir, Zarlin said desperately, what if demonstrating our military superiority starts a war that could destroy both civilizations? That's enough, Velnoth said sharply. Return to your duties, Officer Zarlin. And remember that questioning orders is a serious offense. Zarlin left the commander's office knowing she had failed. But as she walked back to her workstation, she made a decision that would change the course of history. That night, while the rest of the intelligence section slept, Zarlin activated her hidden communication device. She had programmed it to send a message directly to Earth using frequencies that human radio telescopes could detect. The message was simple: this is Zarlin of the Zephyrian Empire. I am aboard one of the ships approaching your world. I want to talk. She sent the message toward Earth and waited. The response came 18 hours later. This is Dr. Lisa Cameron of Earth's NASA organization. We have received your message. We want to talk too. For the next month, Zarlin and Dr. Cameron exchanged messages in secret. Lisa was working with a team of linguists and computer specialists to understand Zephyrian language patterns. Zarlin was using her access to Zephyrian databases to learn more about human culture. Your military leaders believe humans are naturally violent, Zarlin transmitted to Earth. They think you will attack rather than negotiate. Our leaders are preparing for war, Lisa responded, but only because your fleet appears to be hostile. If your people wanted to talk, why didn't they try communication instead of sending warships? It was a good question, and Zarlin didn't have a good answer. The more she learned about humans, the more she realized how badly the Zephyrian High Council had misunderstood them. Can you tell me about your fleet's capabilities? Lisa asked during one exchange. Zarlin hesitated. Sharing military information with the enemy was treason punishable by death. But if she didn't share it, both species might be destroyed in an unnecessary war. 847 ships, she transmitted. Each ship carries weapons capable of destroying a city. Our shields can protect us from most attacks. Our tactics are based on overwhelming force followed by demands for surrender. What are your people's intentions toward Earth? Lisa asked. Conquest and integration into the Empire. Your people would be relocated to various worlds and your planet would be colonized by Zephyrians. There was a long pause before Lisa responded. Is there any way to avoid this conflict? I don't know, Zarlin admitted. War Commander Velnoth might listen to reason, but Admiral Krekstar is convinced that humans are too dangerous to be allowed to develop space travel. Over the following weeks, the secret communications continued. Lisa shared information about human culture, art, and philosophy. Zarlin described Zephyrian society and their history of conquest. Slowly, both beings began to understand how badly their species had misunderstood each other. Your people see our entertainment and think we love violence, Lisa transmitted. But that entertainment exists because we're trying to understand violence, not because we enjoy it. Your people's tendency toward cooperation might be exactly what the galaxy needs, Zarlin replied. The Zephyrian Empire has conquered 17 worlds, but we've never learned from any of them. We just impose our culture and move on. The exchange that changed everything came when Lisa asked, what would happen if your fleet simply returned home? Impossible, Zarlin responded. No Zephyrian fleet has ever retreated from a mission. But what if they had a reason? What if they learned something that made conquest unnecessary? Zarlin thought about this for days. Finally, she made another decision that violated every regulation in the Zephyrian military code. She transmitted the complete tactical specifications of the Zephyrian fleet to Earth, including shield frequencies, weapon ranges, and command ship locations. If your people can prove they're capable of defeating us, she sent to Lisa, War Commander Velnoth might be willing to negotiate instead of fight. Her final message was personal. I believe our species could learn from each other rather than destroy each other. I hope you can find a way to prove this to my commanders before it's too late. 2 days later, War Commander Velnoth discovered the unauthorized communications. Zarlin was arrested and sentenced to immediate execution for treason. But before the sentence could be carried out, long-range sensors detected something that changed everything. The human planet was transmitting a message directly to the Zephyrian fleet. And it wasn't a message of war or surrender. It was something no Zephyrian commander had ever received from an enemy, an invitation to talk. War Commander Velnoth stood in the detention area, staring at the prisoner who had just changed the course of galactic history. Zarlin sat behind energy bars, her communication device confiscated and her military rank stripped away. According to Zephyrian law, she should already be dead for committing treason. But the message from Earth had complicated everything. "Did you tell them about our tactical capabilities?" Velnoth asked. Zarlin met his gaze without flinching. "Yes, sir. I transmitted our complete fleet specifications to Earth. Do you understand what you've done? You've given the enemy everything they need to destroy us." "I've given them everything they need to defend themselves," Zarlin corrected. "There's a difference." Velnoth activated his personal display and showed her the transmission Earth had sent to the fleet. Instead of threats or demands, it was something unprecedented in Zephyrian military experience. "People of the Zephyrian Empire," the human message began, "we know you are approaching our world with the intention of conquest. We want you to know that we don't want to fight you." The message was being broadcast on frequencies that every ship in the fleet could receive. Velnoth had ordered his communications officers to block it, but the humans were using the same interference techniques they had been employing for months. The signal was getting through to every ship. "We understand that you believe humans are violent and dangerous," the transmission continued. "We want to show you that we are more than our worst impulses. We are curious about your people and your culture. We want to learn from you, not fight you." Velnoth turned off the display. "This is obviously a trap. They're trying to make us lower our guard." "What if it isn't?" Zarlin asked. "What if they genuinely want to communicate?" Before Velnoth could answer, his communication officer's voice came over the ship's intercom. "War Commander, you need to come to the bridge immediately." Velnoth hurried to the command center, where he found his officers studying displays that showed something impossible. The human planet was transmitting music. "They started broadcasting this an hour ago," reported Battle Captain Korseth. "It's being sent on all frequencies simultaneously." The music was unlike anything in Zephyrian culture. Instead of the military marches and victory songs that Zephyrian warriors knew, this was something soft and complex. The melodies seemed to tell stories without words. "What's the tactical purpose?" Velnoth asked. "Unknown, sir. There's no encoded information in the transmission. It appears to be just music." Over the ship's communication system, they could hear human voices singing in languages the Zephyrians didn't recognize. The songs seemed to be about love, loss, hope, and dreams, concepts that had no place in military communications. "Sir," one of the junior officers said hesitantly, "some of the crew are requesting permission to continue listening to the transmissions." Velnoth stared at him. "Why?" "They say it's interesting. Different from anything they've heard before." This was exactly what Velnoth had been afraid of. Zephyrian military discipline was based on focusing entirely on the mission. Soldiers who became curious about the enemy were soldiers who might hesitate to destroy them. "Block all transmissions from Earth," he ordered. "Sir, we've tried. The humans are using our own communication frequencies against us. The only way to block their signals would be to shut down our entire communication network." Velnoth was trapped. He needed ship-to-ship communications to coordinate the fleet, but he couldn't block the human transmissions without cutting off his own systems. Over the next week, the situation got worse. Earth wasn't just broadcasting music. They were sending mathematics, poetry, pictures of their planet, and recordings of children laughing. "This is psychological warfare," Velnoth told his senior staff. "They're trying to make us sympathize with them so we won't attack." But Battle Captain Korseth looked uncertain. "Sir, I've been monitoring crew communications throughout the fleet. The soldiers are asking questions." "What kind of questions?" "They want to know why we're attacking a species that seems interested in friendship. They're asking why these humans don't sound like the violent primitives we were told to expect. This was Velnotha's worst nightmare. Zephyrian military culture was built on unquestioning obedience to orders. Soldiers who started asking why were soldiers who might refuse to fight. The crisis reached its peak when Earth began broadcasting something called children's songs. The transmissions featured young human voices singing simple melodies about peace, friendship, and wonder at the universe. "Sir," one of his communications officers reported, "we're receiving reports from throughout the fleet. Many soldiers are refusing to listen to combat briefings because they want to hear more of the human music." Velnoth felt his carefully organized military machine beginning to fall apart. He called an emergency meeting of all ship commanders in the fleet. "The humans are using non-standard psychological tactics," he announced to the assembled captains. "They are attempting to weaken our resolve through emotional manipulation." "War Commander," interrupted Captain Rextal of the destroyer Night's Edge, "what if they're not trying to manipulate us? What if they genuinely want to communicate?" "That's impossible. Our intelligence clearly shows." "Our intelligence was wrong," Captain Rextal continued. "These humans detected our fleet and analyzed our technology. They've been preparing for our arrival for months. They're not the primitives we expected." Another captain, Veltar of the cruiser Iron Fist, spoke up. "My crew is asking why we're planning to destroy a civilization that makes such beautiful music." "Because they're dangerous," Velnoth replied, but his voice lacked conviction. "Dangerous how?" asked Captain Zoreth of the battleship Stormbringer. "They haven't threatened us. They haven't attacked us. They've sent us music and mathematics and invitations to talk." Velnoth realized he was losing control of his commanders as well as his soldiers. The rigid Zephyrian command structure that had conquered 17 worlds was crumbling because no one had ever taught them how to fight an enemy that refused to be an enemy. "The humans are trying to avoid a war that would cost millions of lives on both sides," Captain Rextal said. "Isn't that exactly what intelligent beings should do?" "Our orders are clear," Velnoth said desperately. "We will proceed with the conquest of Earth." But even as he said it, he could see doubt in the faces of his officers. The human transmissions had planted questions that Zephyrian military training had never prepared them to answer. That night, Velnoth returned to the detention area to speak with Zarlin again. "Your human friends are destroying my fleet without firing a shot," he said. "They're not destroying anything," Zarlin replied. "They're just showing your soldiers that there might be alternatives to conquest." "Alternatives like what?" "Communication. Trade. Cultural exchange. Learning from each other instead of dominating each other." Velnoth was quiet for a long time. "In 1,000 years of Zephyrian expansion, we've never encountered a species that offered friendship instead of fighting." "Maybe that's because you've never given them the chance," Zarlin suggested. Outside the detention area, the human transmissions continued. Music, poetry, and messages of welcome filled the communication channels of every ship in the fleet. For the first time in his military career, War Commander Velnoth began to wonder if there might be something worse than losing a battle, winning a war that should never have been fought in the first place. But Admiral Krekstar's orders were clear, and the fleet was only 3 days away from Earth. Soon, Velnoth would have to choose between following commands and following his conscience. The question was whether 3 days would be enough time for the humans to prove that some enemies were worth making into friends instead. Dr. Lisa Cameron stood in the main communications center of Earth Defense Command, watching displays that showed the psychological state of an entire alien fleet falling apart in real time. "The music was just the beginning," she told General Thompson as they reviewed the latest intelligence reports. "Now we move to Phase 2. For the past month, Earth had been broadcasting carefully selected transmissions to the Zephyrian fleet. But what the aliens didn't realize was that every transmission had been chosen for maximum psychological impact. "Show me the crew communication intercepts," Lisa said to Maria Santos, the communications specialist who had first suggested using cognitive warfare against the aliens. Maria activated the displays showing translated conversations between Zephyrian soldiers throughout their fleet. The translations were rough, but the meaning was clear. "They're arguing about the mission," Maria reported. "Lower-ranking soldiers are questioning their officers. Officers are questioning their commanders. The entire chain of command is breaking down. Lisa smiled grimly. Perfect. Begin Phase 2. Phase 2 was Dr. Cameron's masterpiece, targeted empathy deployment. Instead of general broadcasts, Earth would send specific messages designed to make individual aliens question everything they believed about humans and warfare. The first targeted transmission was directed at the Zephyrian medical officers. Earth sent recordings of human hospitals, showing human doctors working desperately to save lives regardless of the patient's nationality or background. Medical Officer Kexran of the cruiser Silver Death, one transmission began, "We know you've dedicated your life to healing. These recordings show human medical professionals doing the same work you do, fighting to preserve life rather than destroy it." The recordings showed human surgeons working for 18 hours straight to save accident victims. They showed nurses caring for children in refugee camps. They showed medical researchers sharing their discoveries freely with colleagues around the world. The second set of transmissions targeted Zephyrian engineers. Earth broadcast footage of human engineering projects, bridges that connected separated communities, water treatment plants that brought clean drinking water to remote villages, and space telescopes built to explore the universe peacefully. Engineer Torval of the battleship Iron Will, the transmission said, "You've spent your career building machines of war. Look at what human engineers build when they're not fighting, structures that heal their world instead of destroying others." But the most effective transmissions were aimed at parents in the Zephyrian fleet. Earth had learned from Zarlin's communications that many aliens had families back home on Zephyr Prime. To all Zephyrian parents serving in the fleet approaching Earth, Dr. Cameron's voice said gently, "We want to show you something." The transmission that followed showed human children at play. Not the violent games that appeared in human military training, but simple activities, children building sand castles, playing music together, sharing toys, helping younger children learn to read. "These are our children," the transmission continued. "Just like your children, they dream of growing up in a peaceful universe. They wonder about the stars and what lives among them. They hope that when they meet other species, those meetings will be filled with wonder rather than fear." The psychological impact was immediate and devastating. Throughout the Zephyrian fleet, soldiers began refusing orders. Some demanded to speak with their commanding officers. Others simply sat in their quarters, listening to the human transmissions instead of preparing for battle. War Commander Velnoth is receiving reports of mutiny from 17 ships, Maria reported to Dr. Cameron. His officers are requesting permission to open communication channels with Earth. But Dr. Cameron wasn't finished. Phase 3 was the most dangerous part of her plan. She was going to broadcast something that might either end the war or guarantee that it would be fought to the death. "General Thompson," she said, "I need you to record a message." "What kind of message?" "An honest one. I want you to tell the Zephyrian fleet exactly what will happen if they attack Earth." General Thompson looked uncertain. "Lisa, we've been trying to avoid threats. You said we wanted to show them our peaceful intentions." "We do. But they also need to understand that peaceful doesn't mean helpless." The message that Earth broadcast next was unlike anything the Zephyrians had heard before. Instead of boasts or threats, it was a calm, professional military assessment. War Commander Velnoth, General Thompson's voice said over the fleet's communication systems, "I am General Marcus Thompson, Commander of Earth's Defense Forces. I want to speak with you soldier to soldier. You are approaching our world with overwhelming firepower, and under normal circumstances, you would easily defeat us in open battle. However, these are not normal circumstances." The transmission included detailed information about Earth's defensive preparations, all based on the intelligence Zarlin had provided about Zephyrian tactics and technology. "We know the exact specifications of your ships," Thompson continued. "We know your weapon ranges, your shield frequencies, and your tactical doctrines. We have spent 18 months preparing specifically to fight your fleet. More importantly, we have advantages you may not have considered. This is our home system. We know every asteroid, every satellite, and every piece of debris. We have turned our entire solar system into a weapon." The message included tactical projections showing what would happen if the Zephyrian fleet attacked Earth. The analysis was brutal but honest. The aliens would eventually win, but they would lose at least 60% of their ships and most of their personnel. We estimate that approximately 400,000 Zephyrian soldiers would die in the conquest of Earth, Thompson said. We estimate that approximately 8 billion humans would die defending our world. War Commander, I ask you to consider whether any military objective is worth those casualties. But the most powerful part of the message came at the end, when General Thompson spoke directly to the individual soldiers listening throughout the fleet. To the Zephyrian warriors preparing to attack our world, we know you're brave. We know you're disciplined. We know you follow orders even when those orders lead to your deaths. But we want you to know that you don't have to die for this mission. You don't have to kill us for this mission. There is another choice. Come to Earth as visitors, not conquerors. Ask us your questions instead of shooting us. Learn from us instead of ruling us. We will welcome you with curiosity instead of weapons. The choice is yours. The transmission ended, and Earth waited for the Zephyrian response. It came 6 hours later, but not from War Commander Velnoth. Instead, it came from individual ships throughout the fleet. This is Captain Rextal of the destroyer Knight's Edge. We want to talk. This is Medical Officer Kexran of the cruiser Silver Death. We want to learn about human medicine. This is Engineer Torval of the battleship Iron Will. We want to see your peaceful engineering projects. Within 12 hours, over 300 ships in the Zephyrian fleet had sent individual messages to Earth, all expressing interest in communication rather than combat. War Commander Velnoth was faced with a situation no Zephyrian commander had ever encountered, a mutiny based not on cowardice or rebellion, but on the desire for peace. In the detention area of his flagship, Zarlin listened to the reports of her fellow soldiers choosing dialogue over destruction. You are right, she whispered to herself. Some species are worth making friends with instead of enemies. But the fleet was still approaching Earth, and Admiral Krextar's orders had not changed. In 48 hours, the largest invasion force in galactic history would reach a small blue planet whose greatest weapon was its refusal to behave like an enemy. The question was whether reason could triumph over orders before the first shot was fired in a war that nobody wanted to fight. War Commander Velnoth stood alone on the bridge of his flagship, staring at the small blue planet that hung in space ahead of his fleet. In 6 hours, he would either order the largest military assault in Zephyrian history or make a decision that would change two civilizations forever. His communication console showed over 400 incoming messages from ships in his own fleet. Captains, officers, and ordinary soldiers were all asking the same question: why were they attacking a species that wanted to be their friends? Sir, Battle Captain Corseth said quietly, Admiral Krextar is demanding an immediate status report. Velnoth looked at his second-in-command, a soldier he had served with for 20 years. What would you tell him? Corseth was quiet for a moment. I would tell him that everything we thought we knew about humans was wrong. The communication panel chimed with an incoming message from Zephyr Prime. Admiral Krextar's face appeared on the screen, his 4 eyes glowing with impatience. War Commander Velnoth, why haven't you begun the assault? You should have entered Earth's orbital space hours ago. Velnoth took a deep breath. Admiral, I request permission to attempt communication with the humans before beginning military operations. Absolutely not. Your orders are to demonstrate our military superiority first. Communication comes after they surrender. Sir, with respect, the situation has changed. The humans have been broadcasting to our fleet for weeks. They've shown no hostile intent. They appear to want peaceful contact. Admiral Krextar's image leaned forward angrily. The humans are manipulating you, War Commander. Their transmissions are psychological warfare designed to weaken your resolve. What if they're not? Velnoth asked. What if they genuinely want to avoid unnecessary bloodshed? Impossible. You've read their transmissions. They live for war and violence. Velnoth activated his personal display and showed Admiral Krextar the recordings of human children singing, human doctors healing patients, and human engineers building peaceful structures. These are also their transmissions, Admiral. Which ones represent their true nature? Krextar studied the images for a long time. Finally, he spoke. It doesn't matter, War Commander. The High Council has voted. The humans must be conquered before they develop faster-than-light travel and spread their violence to other worlds. What if we're wrong about them? What if we're right? Krekstar countered. Can you take the risk of allowing a species this dangerous to reach the stars? The communication ended, leaving Velnoth alone with his orders and his conscience. 2 hours later, he made a decision that violated every regulation in the Zephyrian military code. Open a communication channel to Earth, he ordered. Sir? Korseth asked in surprise. You heard me. I want to speak directly with their military commander. The response from Earth came within minutes. General Thompson's face appeared on the viewing screen, flanked by Dr. Cameron and other human officials. War Commander Velnoth, General Thompson said, thank you for agreeing to talk. General Thompson, I need to ask you a direct question. Are humans naturally violent? Thompson was quiet for a moment, clearly considering his answer carefully. We're capable of violence, just like any species that evolved as hunters. But violence isn't our nature, it's just one tool we use when other tools fail. Your entertainment broadcasts suggest otherwise. Dr. Cameron leaned forward. War Commander, our violent entertainment exists because we're trying to understand violence, not because we enjoy it. We tell stories about war so we can learn to avoid real wars. That makes no sense, Velnoth said. It makes perfect sense, Thompson replied. The best way to prevent something terrible is to understand why it happens and how to stop it. Velnoth felt something he had never experienced before, doubt about a military mission. If humans are capable of peace, why is your history filled with wars? Because we're still learning, Dr. Cameron said honestly. Every generation of humans is a little less violent than the one before. We make mistakes, but we try to learn from them. What about your weapons of mass destruction? Why do you build devices that could destroy your own planet? Because we're afraid, Thompson admitted. We built those weapons to protect ourselves from other humans. But in the past 50 years, we've been working to eliminate them. We've realized that some weapons are too dangerous for anyone to possess. Velnoth thought about this. The Zephyrian Empire had weapons that could destroy planets, and they had never considered giving them up. War Commander, Dr. Cameron said, can I ask you a question? Very well. What do your people want from the galaxy? It was such a simple question, but Velnoth realized he had never thought about it before. We want order. Security. We want to ensure that dangerous species cannot threaten peaceful ones. That's exactly what we want too, Thompson said. The difference is that you achieve it through conquest, and we want to achieve it through cooperation. Cooperation has never worked on a galactic scale, Velnoth replied. It's never been tried on a galactic scale, Dr. Cameron corrected. Maybe it's time someone attempted it. Their conversation was interrupted by an emergency signal from his communication officer. Sir, we're receiving a priority transmission from Admiral Krekstar. Krekstar's face appeared on the screen again, but this time he looked troubled rather than angry. War Commander, I've been reviewing the human transmissions your ship has been relaying back to Zephyr Prime. The High Council wants to speak with you immediately. The view changed to show all 12 members of the Zephyrian High Council. High Counselor Nexera spoke first. War Commander Velnoth, we have been monitoring the human communications. We need to ask you, are these transmissions authentic? As far as we can determine, yes. The humans are genuinely offering peaceful contact? Yes, High Counselor. And they have detailed knowledge of our military capabilities? Correct. They could cause significant casualties if we attack. High Counselor Nexera looked at her fellow council members. War Commander, we are prepared to authorize a change in your mission parameters. What kind of change? Instead of conquest, we want you to attempt negotiation. The word seemed strange coming from a Zephyrian leader. In 1,000 years of expansion, the Empire had never negotiated with anyone. What are my new orders? Velnoth asked. Determine whether humans can be trusted as allies rather than conquered as enemies. The communication ended, leaving Velnoth staring at General Thompson and Dr. Cameron. Well, Thompson said with a slight smile, this is unprecedented. General, Dr. Cameron, Velnoth said formally, on behalf of the Zephyrian Empire, I formally request permission to begin diplomatic negotiations with Earth. Permission granted, Thompson replied. Welcome to the Sol System, War Commander. Not as conquerors, but as our first interstellar guests. 3 days later, a small shuttle from the Zephyrian flagship docked with the International Space Station. War Commander Velnoth and a diplomatic team that included the recently pardoned Zarlin met with human representatives. The first interstellar treaty in galactic history was signed not after a military victory, but after two species realized they had more to gain from friendship than from war. Captain Alex Rodriguez, who had risked his life to gather intelligence about the alien fleet, made the final entry in Earth's historical record of the events. First contact achieved without a single shot fired. The Zephyrian Empire came to conquer Earth and instead discovered that some victories are worth more than any conquest. Today, humanity gained its first alien allies. Tomorrow, we begin learning from each other. In the years that followed, Earth became the first world to voluntarily join the Zephyrian Empire as an equal partner rather than a conquered territory. Human concepts of cooperation and peaceful conflict resolution spread throughout the galaxy, changing how civilizations interacted with each other. The war that never happened became the peace that changed everything. And in the archives of both civilizations, the story was remembered simply: they declared war on Earth, then surrendered to an idea, that maybe the universe was big enough for both warriors and dreamers, and maybe the dreamers had something worth learning.